10:30. So good morning and welcome to our MRTA conversation today. We're continuing our education series regarding financial wellness and getting your financial house in order. My name is John Green with Association of Member Benefits Advisors. I'm joined by Nancy Craig, your president, and she's going to address the group here in just a moment. But just a few housekeeping details before we get started. You'll notice that all participants are in a listen-only mode. And what that means is we can't see you, we can't hear you, but that's okay. If you have questions or you want to make comments, feel free to drop those in chat, put them into Q&A, and then at the end of the conversation as well, if we don't answer those questions or you have another question, you don't feel comfortable about typing it in there, you can always hold up your hand on the reaction bar at the end and we will unmute you and you can ask the question right there live on the spot. We can do that as well. You'll notice this QR code down here in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You're going to see that at the end of the conversation today. So grab your smartphone, because the way that you can access some of the information we're talking about specifically today is to take your smartphone, open up the camera feature, and hover over that QR code. Don't take a picture of it, just simply hover over it. A little form will pop up. You can hit it with your finger and you can fill out all the information on there and get rolling with anything that you have questions about going forward here. So appreciate you joining us today. Just another quick reminder, we record all of these sessions. We put them out on the MRTA website sometime probably early next week. It'll be out there. So you can follow back up if there's something that you missed, something you want to share with a family member or with a fellow member that didn't make it on the call. You can share that out there as well and use it for your reference as well. So Nancy, I know you're back on the road and you're selling t-shirts to support that. So tell me what's going on out there.
I am. Do you see my picture with my t-shirts?
I love it. I love it.
Yes, I had to wash it and I'm wearing it tomorrow to Cuba. I'm going to Cuba, Missouri. That will be my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th regional meeting tomorrow. And if you can see this, this is where I'm going.
Okay.
I've been all over the Southwest and now I'm coming toward the middle, but I have several more to do in May, and I have one in June, or no, 2 in June, and a unit meeting in August. So by September 9, John, I will be finished with my road trip.
Well, you still have many more months to go.
I'm sorry, what?
You still have many more months to go. So tell me.
Yes, I do.
Out there.
It's really been a pleasure. I've been a member of MRTA for a long time, and I've been on the board for a long time. And this map has really helped me know where these regions are and who's responsible for them. There's 14 of them, and all 14 have a vice president who's in charge of them. So it's just really been a good thing for me, and I'm hoping it's a good thing for them. Right now, Maria Walden, our new executive president, our new executive director, is going with me. So I have 4 points, and Amba does one of them, 4 points in my little talk that I do, and Amba does one of them, and Maria does the other one. And so I have 2 that I'm doing. So it's made my workload a lot easier since she's been on the road with me. But I went to, I've been busy this week. I've been to, I had a Zoom meeting on Tuesday with one of our committees, and today they called it, fortunately, John, at 10 o'clock. So I just got off with another virtual one of our committee meetings. It's really helpful because we're so spread out that it's hard to get all the committee chairs in one place at the same time. But it's been really good. And I want to tell you all, you're in for a treat. John is really, really good at what he does. So, and he's got the golf tournament on there. I don't do golf, but I'm going to be in my shirt and I'll be there for lunch if I can find where it is. I don't golf. And also the phone to action. If we're closing out this legislative session, This is a really good way to get connected, and you can see you text MRTA to 52886, and that'll get you hooked up with the director and the office. And whenever there is an alert, you will get it on your phone wherever you are, and you fill out your information and hit send, and it's done. So it's really painless way of letting your legislators know how MRTA feels, how you feel about a particular bill. She was just talking about some, and they get really they stick things into omnibus bills at this point, and they're watching those. And we're working together with other educational organizations. The superintendents and the principals have a huge organization that really watches out all over education bills all over the state. So we've got quite a few people in the General Assembly that advocate for us, but Maria and Mark Webb is new to the office, and both of them are staying in touch with the legislators and watching. There's over 200 bills that have been filed for about education. So they're trying to micromanage education in the state of Missouri, and it's not working. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. It's because the end of the session is May 13. So we're on the downhill slope.
But
So
it's that downhill slope, as Nancy mentioned, that you really need to pay attention, because a lot of times at the last minute, they'll slide something into those bills. Being on this phone to action will keep you abreast of what's going on. So text MRTA to 52886 and jump on there. And I will tell you, I have the privilege of working with several retired educator organizations across the states, and MRTA is one of the best when it comes to sticking to legislative goals. And so knowing that action plan and getting involved at the last minute can really not only take care of you in your retirement years, but help those teachers who are working in the classroom right now. So
yes, yes. Most of us who are retired are whatever affects the active teacher affects us. And that's why we're really MRTA is really strong on doing keeping legislation under control, actually, because whatever affects the regular teacher, the active teacher, it comes down to us eventually. So,
exactly.
and we definitely don't want anything to mess with our really good retirement.
That's right. Like I said, I'm impressed with your COLAs. I'm impressed with the strength of your retirement system. And like you said, what affects you and what affects those active teachers right now, those are your future members. And I know we're trying to get more into schools as well and teaching them as well. So keep that up,
Right.
Nancy. We
Yeah.
may have got a question that came in here. See if there's a question here. So it's a question from Joanne came in that says, will we still be getting the email legislative updates? Does that still take place as well?
Yes, emails. Yes. And at the end of session, Maria just talked about it. They're doing a thank you to all the legislators who supported the schools and the active teachers and our retirement. So yes, you will still be getting legislative updates. So stay tuned to that.
Super. Anything else, Nancy?
And if you don't see them, Joanne, contact the office, and they will make sure that you're on the list to get those. So yes.
Absolutely. So Nancy, thank you very much. Continue to enjoy your tour out there, and we hope to see you at the golf tournament, even if you don't swing the club, so come on out and join everybody out there. Okay, thank you very much for jumping on here, Nancy. All right. Okay. Appreciate that. So again, let's move right on through here. Just a real quick reminder, my name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors, and I live a little bit north of Houston with my wife of 30 plus years, who's an elementary educator in the same school that she and my 3 kids all go to school. I do have a Missouri connection. I love to go up and see my son whenever he was up there getting his grad work done at Mizzou. And so I appreciate the opportunity to share with you today. Most of my career I have spent working with active educators, getting them to know a little bit about what their benefits are whenever they retire. So it's important for me to help you understand what you have, but also to help them as well. So just a couple of quick reminders, since it is legislative season, MRTA is so involved, and I appreciate what you do on behalf of your members to watch out for that pension. So many times when the stock market is up, there's a lot of hands that are in the pension. When the stock market goes down, that could impact COLAs and things like that. So you've got a watchdog, a strong watchdog in MRTA. They also are out there looking to preserve your benefits, any type of things that you receive from your district, from the state, however that comes, keeping you connected. And part of Nancy's road trip is as much to get the word out as it is to be connected again and reconnecting back with you across the state. And then to partner with AMBA to bring those extra benefits, those exclusive discounts, things like that, the fun stuff that you have for retired educators and retired public employees. As a member of MRTA, you have access to a large slate of benefits that can fill those gaps that aren't covered when you got them from your state or from your district or however you received your benefits. And they're portable for whatever reason. If you leave the area, whether you leave the state altogether, move away from wherever you receive your benefits, you can take these benefits with you wherever you go. But the biggest reason that a lot of MRTA members really appreciate having AMBA and MRTA partnered up is that you can extend your benefits to family members, be it to adult children who maybe have aged out of your benefits, or to your parents as you're helping them prepare for their care and their needs as well. And because we have many teachers that retire at a relatively early age and go on to work a second job or a second career, it may prevent you from having to take an extra time off from your job to take care of a loved one with proper planning today. So we're going to talk about a little bit of different conversation today. We're going to address several different things as we go through here. We're going to talk about a lot of different issues that can help keep your financial health up, for lack of a better term, your financial wellness, and how to keep your financial house in order. We're going to talk about Medicare changes, some of the things we've seen this year and how it's impacted especially rural doctors and rural Medicare providers. It could impact you, and how to be a smart healthcare consumer. We're going to talk about the 4 major gaps that retirees have. We're going to discuss some financial tips that you can act on immediately and give you some tools. And then, because we've had some members ask about required minimum distributions as we get older, how you get that money out, what that means, we're going to talk about RMDs and the impact of RMDs. But first, we want to talk about Medicare. Now, all of us that receive Social Security, and I don't receive that yet, but if you receive Social Security, you know that you received an increase in your Social Security back at the beginning of the year. Biggest increase in many, many years that you received. Well, right on the tail end of that, you started to receive an increase in the cost of Medicare as well. Well, while Medicare is increasing their premium cost and increasing deductibles, co-insurance clauses, and things like that for Part A and B, they're also cutting some things on the backside. And those cuts on the backside are really starting to come to a head this year. These were started over the past decade, several administrations, it doesn't matter, left or right, R or D, doesn't matter. They're always looking for ways to cut the cost of Medicare because it is a huge multi-billion dollar cost. And one of the ways they've started to do this is how they reimburse doctors and Medicare providers for their services and for the costs of medication. And so whenever they've put the new cuts into place this year, we started to see that in a couple of ways. And one of those is how they reimburse providers for certain medications and treatments related to cancer. And so give you an example of how this works. Say you've got an MRTA member, Grace, that had a bout with cancer several years ago. And for the past 8 years, she goes to her local provider to receive IV immune therapy sessions. She'll go once a month, receive those sessions to keep her immune system up at her local physician's clinic to keep from having a recurrence of cancer. Well, Medicare comes in and they start to shave off just small percentages off the cost of reimbursement for that drug, for that medication. Well, the physician's clinic says that small cut now makes it unstable or unprofitable, for lack of a better word, or I can't provide this at a loss for my patients. So I'm going to have to stop accepting Medicare patients. So the physician stops. So that presents Grace with a situation where she has to choose to either pay for it outside of Medicare because she wants to stay close to the local physician's clinic that she's been going to for years, or she has to now travel to a more urban location to someone that accepts that Medicare reimbursement rate. So again, that's how we're starting to see this impact members across across the country that are on Medicare with some of the changes that Medicare has done out there. Couple of things also too, because if you know, Medicare is indexed, the cost of Medicare is indexed to your income, meaning your income that you have that you report on your taxes can impact what you pay for Medicare. Well, if you had a life-changing event last year, such as you got married or divorced, you had a spouse that passed away, you stopped that second job that you were working after you retired, something like that, that those things happened, you can apply to readjust your Medicare payments by using Medicare form SSA 44. Now, I know we have just passed the tax filing deadline. This has nothing to do with tax filing deadline. This has everything to do with what your cost of your Medicare is. Now, it's a fairly high threshold for a household income to reduce your Medicare payments, or that you have to pay more for. But if you did have one of these life-changing events take place, you can apply immediately to reduce your Medicare payments. So again, I would encourage you to do that if something has happened to you in that regards. Okay, so what I want to talk a little bit more about in terms of getting your financial house in order or financial wellness is to understand your medical plan. And because educators in Missouri receive their medical care from a wide variety of sources, some other states, they may have a state plan, or they may have a specific plan for just retired educators, something like that. Missouri, it's a very patchwork quilt, so to speak, of how you receive your medical. Could be from a spouse, could be from the district you received, or you could be 100% Medicare. Understand your payments, understand your plan, your copays, your deductibles, and your co-insurance clauses, because those are out-of-pocket expenses for you. And then how those all add up into out-of-pocket maximums. So to be a better healthcare consumer, understanding your coverage is crucial, because those plans change every year. And it may not be what is or isn't covered, although some of those things do take place. It could be just some simple changes that you're not familiar with. It could be an extra $5 increase to a copay, or it could be some type of co-insurance clause going from 20% to 50%, something like that. So there's a lot of times that you've got co-insurance clause changes or out-of-pocket maximums that you're not aware of, that all of a sudden this year comes and you have a major medical situation and you've got more money out of your pocket. Sometimes some plans will change, especially if you have a network-driven type plan that says you can receive even more services if you'll stay in the network that in the past weren't covered before. So they're trying to make things a little bit better for you as well. They're offering perks and incentives in a lot of these networks. Apps on the phone to track walking steps, things like that, giving you prizes, giving you free mammograms, giving you free different tests, things like that. Ways to get you to incent to take care of yourself in advance of any type of medical situation. I would highly encourage you, if you do need some sort of surgery, some sort of medical treatment, to ask for pricing transparency. Even if you're in a network, ask the doctor that you're receiving treatment from, what's the price up front? Are there going to be people outside of the network who are going to be participating in my procedure? And where you'll usually see this is, and let's just take it for instance, you're going to have a heart stent put in or something like that. The doctor and the person providing the surgery, that may be all in network, but there could be someone outside of the network that is receiving testing results, doing any type of MRI readings, things like that, and that could cause surprise billings later. So make sure you ask for that pricing transparency, be able to shop around for services. You'd be surprised. There are many different procedures, even people within the same network, that will provide the pricing for different services, things like that. And if you have co-insurance clauses, that can make a difference for you. And please, please, please don't skip that preventative care. So many of the preventative care procedures in network are covered 100%, and they can avoid things in the long run in the future for you. So that's some ways that you can be a better healthcare consumer. Let's talk now about some of those gaps. And this is whether you are pre-65 and not yet on Medicare, or whether you're on Medicare and in a supplement or some type of advantage plan or something like that. There are four major gaps that we find. And we look at these policies in conjunction with MRTA every year and say, all right, major medical out there, Medicare. The four major gaps that we've identified out there are things related to home health care and facility care, meaning that Medicare no longer pays for that. Major medical has never paid for that, but Medicare doesn't pay for it beyond just a very small portion outside of a rehabilitation type of a stay after a 3-day hospital stay. But again, Medicare is changing a lot of that. So even that changes what's covered for you. Then when it comes to cancer, heart attack, stroke, those type of situations, things that usually have some type of a long-term after diagnosis treatment plan, what we find is about 60% of the costs are not covered. And especially in Missouri, where you have most of your major treatment centers are centered on the east and west side of the state in the major metropolitan areas, there's a lot of travel related, a lot of things like that. Those things usually aren't covered. We find that 60% of those expenses aren't covered for rehab, for treatment, for travel, things of that nature. Medical transportation, because most ambulance providers and all those air ambulance providers in the state, they don't participate in any Medicare or major medical networks. And so that means that you may get a reimbursement rate from Medicare or from your major med, but then they can charge over and above that, and that's money that's back on you. And then there's no final expense or coverage in the event of death in any of these type of plans. So that leaves you with four gaps that could be out there for you as well. All right, let's kind of switch the conversation from healthcare to some financially healthy actions that you can take in 2022, because we know inflation's going up. The things that you can take to maybe keep your spending in the check, help you get more organized. We're going to look a little bit at some insurance issues, that maybe some ways that you can save a dime here or there. And then we're going to talk about protecting your nest egg overall, because it is kind of becoming a hot topic now. Every day I open my phone up and look at the stock market, and I close it real quickly because I just see a bunch of red, and it's not a lot of fun there. So let's talk about budget. These are three big budget items that we all deal with, whether you've paid your house off or not: housing, transportation, and food. And so I kind of want to show you some of the trends that we're seeing out there, things I'm reading about, of ways that you can save money, make money, do things to make your budget stretch a little bit further in these three major items. When it comes to your housing, what we're seeing right now, because the house prices are at their highest point in a long, long time, people are getting more value out of their house. They're saying this is a great opportunity to downsize. Now, I think about my mom, who's almost 81, be 81 here in about a week, and she lives in the house that we grew up in, two-story house. She doesn't need the space right now, even though it's paid off for. It's in the rural part of the state. Doesn't have a lot of taxes, but is it becoming the upkeep, the insurance, the maintenance? Is that becoming more of an issue for her? So we start to think about that. So downsizing could be a situation where you can make quite a bit of money now, because house prices are up pretty high. So that's an opportunity area for you there. The term house hacking is becoming a new way to generate income from your house. And this goes beyond just putting your home in some kind of a rental pool for Airbnb or something like that. If you go on vacation, you could rent out your home for somebody. That's one way that people do that. Other ways people do it is to take tenants in, rent out a room or an apartment, something like that. But the newest way that people are house hacking or making money off of their home is if they have additional storage shed in their backyard or a large garage, something like that. They are putting their storage capacity into a rental market to where you could store something for somebody else and they would pay you a monthly rate to store it for you. So it's just another way to consider making money out of your house, in addition to the traditional rental ways, things of that nature. So there's opportunities there to save money in your house regard. And we're going to talk about insurance in just a moment. When it comes to cars and vehicles, two of the biggest things that are going on right now in car situation is, we all know New cars are harder to come by because of the chip shortage overseas. Well, that means that these car dealerships, if they want to stay in business, they've got to sell used cars. So they're paying a lot more money than what they used to in the past for used cars. So if you have a vehicle that you don't use, meaning that you can sell it, you can make a lot more money than what you used to on your used vehicle. I would highly encourage you to look at something like that if you need the money. If you don't use your vehicle as much, meaning that you are not driving as far as you used to, something like that, call your insurance agent, because many times your insurance rates are set on the mileage that you drive or a certain range of miles that you drive. So I highly encourage you to do that, especially for those of you that have just recently retired or no longer working. Your vehicle rated might have been on work rated before, and now you could be pleasure rated or certain mileage rating, and you can get less expense that way. Third major expense that's out there is food, and we all know that food is going up. If you don't grow your own, I'd highly encourage you to check out the Passport program. Again, that's the free discount program you get through MRTA by being a member there. There are a lot of meal plans that are out there that can help you reduce your meal waste, your food waste there. And then if you're going out, save you some money on your dining as well out there. Okay. Let's talk about insurance just for a moment. These are some things I want you to kind of check up. You should do this every year simply because there could be money that you can find out there, some savings out there. As far as your vehicle, check your deductibles. If you have a low deductible, like a $250 deductible in an accident, you may want to move that up to $500 or $1,000. That could save you some money on your premiums there. Check your liability coverage. You may have too much or you may have too little. That can save you some money that way. We talked about mileage usage again. Call your agent and ask them, how am I being rated on my vehicle? If you're retired, especially, and they have you work rated, that's definitely a change that you want to put in place there. Look for companies that have affinity discounts. And what I mean by affinity discounts, because you were an educator or a retired educator, maybe your spouse is something like that as well. Sometimes different organizations, insurance agencies, or insurance companies have 5 to 10% discount for your certain job or a certain alumni association, something like that. And then specialty coverage. Specialty coverage may have sounded good at the time, meaning that because you may have had a pet in the past, or maybe because you gave private lessons if you were a music school teacher, something like that, you had certain type of coverage on your vehicle, a specialty coverage, and maybe your pet's passed away. Maybe you no longer give lessons. Maybe you don't have a truck that had special equipment on it, something like that. You've taken that equipment off of it. Specialty coverage, you can remove that and you can get some savings that way as well. And then the biggest is shop around. Many companies, if you've been a good customer for your current insurance carrier, they will give you a sizable discount to move over, but be careful because you may have earned some claims forgiveness on with your other company, or may have earned some loyalty discounts. So look at the off hand if you do change that way. When it comes to housing, to home insurance can be very expensive. Even if you have lived in the same house forever, the insurance rates continue to go up because the cost to insure your home continues to go up. You live kind of in a tornado hell area up there, and you want to check your deductibles to make sure that you've got the proper deductible, but make sure that the companies haven't put on some sort of a storm deductible on top of, meaning that they may have put on a 1% or a 2% deductible on top of a regular deductible, that if a tornado or hailstorm comes through, you have to now pay a greater amount to have your roof replaced. So check that out. That could be something that could cost you in the long run, even though it looks like you're saving money right now. Also look at replacement value. The replacement value of your home is different than the sales value of your home, and it's different from what's on the tax rolls for your home. The replacement value of your home is what it would cost to replace your home if it burned to the ground, tornado blew it all the way down, and the insurance company has to do some extra work to get it back into living condition for you. Some insurance companies will automatically increase the value of your home's replacement cost by 3 to 5% every year. Well, after a period of time, that could be significant. So you may want to go in and ask the insurance agency to run a re-evaluation of the cost of replacement of your home. That could save you some money that way. If you've done any major renovations, had your roof replaced, had your home rewired, put in new appliances, those type of things can save you significant amounts of money as well that way, and shop around, consider bundling up auto and home together because those can save you discounts that way. So that's some ways that you can save some money on your home and auto insurance. As far as life insurance, you really need to look at your life insurance periodically. One, to make sure you still need it. I'm a firm believer in life insurance, but make sure that you've got what you think you need. Some of you had it when you were in the schools and you may have lost it. You may not realize you don't have any life insurance now. Some of you may have had a term insurance policy, meaning that you took it out for a period of time, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You may be coming close to the end of that, and you may still have the need, but it's going to be very expensive to renew that policy. It may be time to look at getting some type of permanent insurance on a smaller scale. If your premiums are increasing on your policy, there may be some ways that you can levelize your premium for a reduced amount of coverage. Check into that as a way to save you money. Look for your options that are out there on your policy, because some of them have nursing home riders on them, meaning that if you did get confined to a nursing home, you can receive a portion of your life insurance before you pass away to use for your long-term care needs. So very important that you understand what that is on your policy. If you have questions about the life insurance policies that you have, our team up in Missouri can review your policies, let you understand what you have, help you understand if you did need to go into a nursing home, you've got coverage, you don't have coverage, what that means, things like that. And then if you have life insurance and you don't think that you need it to pay for your final expenses, or your spouse doesn't need it to maintain the lifestyle in which they're living, you may want it for leaving a legacy, paying for grandkids' college, things like that. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with life insurance, even leave it to the church, leave it to your college, things like that. So hopefully there's some tips that you've learned there from your insurance perspective. Again, these are major expenses that you have in your house. And if inflation is eating up some of your fund money, you want to find a way that you can cut costs here. These are some areas that you can do that. All right, let's talk about planning and organizing. And planning and organizing, I'm doing this now with my mom on a periodic basis, because I realized that if something happened to her, she's got a desk where she keeps everything, but there's no way I could find it all in there. So I'm going to talk about what we call an in case of death or disaster folder. And I live about 70 miles from the Gulf Coast. And so when a hurricane comes and we have to leave and they order us to evacuate, we have a plastic folder by the phone that I pick up. It's our iCod folder, and we can put it in the car and go. My wife was in New York City several years ago, and she had her purse stolen. She was able to call me. I was able to grab that plastic folder, open it up. It had all of the contact information. We canceled credit cards, bank accounts within 2 or 3 minutes. Nothing happened. Able to get all that stuff back to her right away. So it's not just an in case of death folder. So I'm going to show you some things and walk through this. And I'm going to show you a tool that we can send you afterwards to help you get organized. And this is really kind of the getting your financial house in order. So think about this from a perspective of, as I mentioned, if a tornado happens, if you have to recreate numbers because something got lost on a trip, vacation trip, or in the case of death or medical incapacitation, you want to have your documents together. And I don't recommend that you put all the documents in there. Maybe it's just a copy of the front document with the contact information, the policy numbers, things like that. But you're going to want to put your birth certificates, your marriage certificates, any type of divorce decrees, adoption paperwork, have that paperwork there. When my father passed away a couple of years ago, that was the first thing that I needed to do to take care of my mom's Social Security, was to have his birth certificate, that kind of thing. Have those type of things ready to roll in that situation. Then you want to have your life insurance and your retirement paperwork together as well. I'm talking about your life insurance policies, especially your beneficiaries. And I'd highly encourage you every year, check your beneficiaries, because too many times I have gone out to deliver checks when someone's passed away, and there's a check for son number one, daughter number one, but that third brother or third sister, they're not a check for them because there was never a beneficiary put in place when the younger brother came along. I've delivered death checks to ex-spouses because that's where the beneficiary was, and it never changed in a new marriage situation. So update those beneficiaries. Any type of death in service documents, and I mean this for those who are not retired, maybe your spouse is not retired yet. If there is some sort of a document with their pension at work that says if they pass away while they are working, there's a different type of benefit that could be bestowed on you as a spouse, you'll want to have that information. Have your pension information there. Many of you, whenever you received your pension, you selected how you wanted your entitlements to be done, meaning that if you passed away, your spouse would continue to receive the same amount of pension you got, or if you passed away, your spouse would receive nothing. That's important to have that documentation in there, how that's going to take place so that there's no surprises that way. Any annuity paperwork, anything that you're receiving any type of payment on that way. When it comes to bank accounts, make sure you put your account numbers, any passwords, login information, that type of stuff, credit card contact information with your numbers, and safety deposit boxes. If you have safety deposit boxes, please, please, please not only put where the key is, but what bank it goes to, that kind of stuff there. When my father-in-law's father, my wife's grandfather, passed away a few years back, he just left an envelope to my father-in-law with about 5 to 10 safety deposit box keys in there, nothing else. So my father-in-law spent months going around to banks trying to figure out if this key went to that safety deposit box. So take care of those type of things in your ICOD folder as you're going forward. Other things to look at when you're sorting through your ICOD folder and putting these checklists together is your assets and your liabilities. So any type of property, land, cemetery deeds, things like that. If you own any type of timeshares down at the Lake of the Ozarks or in Florida, put that information in there. This is where you also want to put any information regarding your IRAs, your 403Bs, 401Ks, including passwords, that type of stuff, any type of bonds, ownership, proof of loans, especially if you've got any family land, put all that stuff, at least the contact information of what it is, in this ICOD folder. Conversely, any liabilities, mortgage information, if you've taken out a reverse mortgage on your home or some type of home equity loan, any type of car loans, put all that information in there as well. And put the monthly expenses down, utilities, insurance, any loans, memberships, subscriptions. Here's why. Oftentimes you automate these things, meaning that it automatically comes off a credit card, it automatically is a bank draft, something like that. Every month we get calls into our home office from surviving family members that say, hey, my mom passed away 2 years ago and we're just taking care of her affairs. And I noticed where she's getting dental and vision deducted out of her paycheck or out of her bank account every month. Can you fix this? Get all that stuff in your ICOD folder so that can be stopped pretty quickly at that point going forward. And because we're a connected world electronically, make sure they have your email passwords, your social media, your Facebook passwords, cell phone accounts, any streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus, things like that, things that you're going to want to cancel right away simply because you don't want any more deductions coming out of there. And then leave them your computer password so they can get in and access that. And then put your contact details down. This will help you two ways, not only when you pass, but also this will help if you're medically incapacitated, that we know who your doctors are. My mom has been very good about saying, here's my doctor, here's their phone number, here's the last time I saw him, here's the pharmacy that takes care of my medication. I like this pharmacy because of X, that type of thing. Your AMBA representative, when you have any AMBA business with us, your lawyer, minister, financial accountant, advisor, that type of stuff, your insurance agent, those type of things, put that contact information down there. When I worked in an agency several years ago, I would get calls. We worked in a retirement community area, a lot of retirees, and we'd get calls from family members out of state saying, hey, mom or dad passed away. I know they had the home, the beach house with your insurance there. Did they have any life insurance with you? Stuff like that. Get those contact information things down in your ICOD folder. And then, of course, put your essentials there. Get your will together, any trust documents, your power of attorney, especially a financial and medical power of attorney. What that means is if you're financially incapacitated, make sure that you've got a financial power of attorney that says this person can act on my behalf. Medical power of attorney the same way. Instruction letters. I have an instruction letter in our folder that says, this is what I want done, my final wishes. Here's how I want my service done. Here's where I want, these type of things that are your wishes, your things you wouldn't put in a will. They're not legal. They're just, here's how I want it done. My mom told us I've got a plot that's 400 miles away. It's a family plot. I want to be buried back there. Here's who you contact back there. Just those type of things. That's what you put in your ICOD folder. If you'll have that checklist completed, you can save yourself a lot of worry, your family a lot of worry, put you at peace of mind that your wishes are going to be taken care of. And if you do have to take that information for any reason, or you lose some other stuff, you've got at least a consolidated folder where those are. Now, I have created for MRTA members a checklist. And if you want this checklist, I'm going to give you my email address at the end of the conversation today. I'll just send you this PDF form. You can print it out and just start creating a checklist and say, all right, I've got these things, put them copies in the folder, that type of stuff like that. I create a plastic folder just so it's waterproof. It can go anywhere. It doesn't get tore up. So at the end of today's conversation, if you want this, I will send it to you. You can print it off and start your own ICOD folder and get you going that way. Another thing that I want you to do is start having these conversations with your family members. Two of my favorite ladies, my mom and my daughter, noticed at Christmas, both mom and my daughter, that my mom was starting to repeat herself a little bit more. And my mom is getting frustrated because she can't remember things as well as she used to. She's having to write it down a whole lot more. She's still very healthy otherwise, but it's bothering her. And so you want to have these conversations now about finances, whether it's with you and your children or with you and your parents, before this cognitive decline starts to take further hold. And these are the questions I want you to start asking now. As you're building that ICOD folder, you can do this. Where do you keep these documents? Can I meet with your advisors? Can I meet with your insurance agent? Can I meet with the person who handles your money? That type of thing. Who are your doctors? Who do you go to? What meds are you taking? Where's your pharmacy? Have you done anything for your long-term care? Meaning that, mom, if something happens to you, who do you want to help you go to the bathroom, get dressed, those type of things? Do you want to stay at home? Do you want to move closer to family? Go to a retirement community? Having these conversations now can prevent a lot of stress if and when the time comes that you have to make a decision with you and your brothers and sisters, or your kids have to make the decision for you. And then, like we talked about, what are your wishes for end-of-life care, funeral plans, expenses like that? And then if you do have a medical crisis, what kind of treatment do you have? I encourage you to have these conversations. Holidays, Memorial Day, 4th of July, family travel, stuff like that's coming up. It's a great time to have the conversation now. So I encourage you to do that. And one way that AARP is helping you have that conversation, they've created what is called kind of a roadmap to financial preparation. And it's a great tool. And if you ask me for that ICOD folder, I'm going to send you this link as well. It's a neat tool that you can fill out online, or you can print it off and put it in handwritten form. It just helps you walk through your finances to get organized, as much as helping to create a trusted advisor or a financial advocate. Could be your spouse, could be your children, could be somebody outside of your family that would help you if you're incapacitated with your finances. It's a neat tool. It's well done by AARP, University of Minnesota. And if you walk it all the way through step by step, it gives you the documents to officially appoint an advocate on your behalf to manage your money if necessary in the future. And so it's another step, another tool that you can use to get your financial house in order, but give you greater peace of mind that you've got to know that your financial affairs are taken care of in order. So, all right. So if you've got questions, drop those in chat. I'll be glad to get that to you as well. So I showed you some ways that you can get your financial house in order. We're going to do a webinar here in a few weeks talking about the threats to your nest egg. But I want to highlight one right away, because the top 5 threats to your nest egg that we've discovered and reading through articles and seeing it live in person are taking care of elderly parents, death of a spouse without life insurance, boomerang children, meaning children that come back and live with you, some type of a medical crisis like a heart attack, stroke, or cancer diagnosis. But the number one that we get a lot of conversations with right now is overexposure to the stock market as we age, meaning that we've got a lot of our money in our nest egg in the stock market in a 403B, 401k, something like that. The good news about your pension plan, you got professional managers who do that. They don't overexpose that. The problem is we as individuals sometimes, because the stock market's been going way up in the past, we just kind of let it go on autopilot. And now when I open up and there's red everywhere, it's not as exciting. And so can we afford to take a hit to our retirement savings when we don't have as many years to catch back up? Those of you remember back 13, 14 years ago in 2008, 2009, when the housing bubble popped and the stock market crashed almost 50%, could you afford to have a drop in your nest egg value? You know, and kind of the way it's been positioned to me right now is, think about, you see that blue line going up, up, up over the past decade or so. It's almost like we've gone to Las Vegas and we've had a really nice run at the blackjack table, but we start to get a little bit down. We start to lose a little bit. We're down, but we're still up overall. And we say, all right, do I spend some more time trying to get back up and catch up to what I was all the way up? Or do I take those profits off the table, go to bed for the night, knowing secure that I still have that money? There are some options to do that, to protect that money to where you don't lose anything. Because if you stick it over into the CD market or your savings rates at the bank, you're going to get next to nothing. At the same time, inflation is jumping up and eating your money away, but you don't lose money there. So like I said, you're eating the power of your money there. There are some options there. There's some endorsed options there for associations across the country that give you the ability to participate in the upside of the market, but not the downside of the market. And they have some long-term care benefits inside of them as well. The plan that I have that is endorsed by several associations, including MRTA, is an asset deferred protection plan that allows me to participate in the upside of the market, but no losses. I can't ever lose any money, but I like it because it gives me long-term care protection. In case I need long-term care, it allows for me to take out more money if I need to, or it allows to double my payments if I'm already starting to receive payments out of it. And I don't have to worry about any underwriting or anything like that or qualifications, because I don't qualify for long-term care because of my family history of dementia. So it gives me peace of mind knowing that I've got that taken care of for me that way. Okay. If you've got any question about what we talked about so far, drop it into chat, put it into Q&A. We'll jump in there and answer those questions. But I want to cover required minimum distributions. This is another issue that as we get older, we now have to start thinking about this. And the government made some changes here recently, and this could impact you. So we want to talk about this in terms of your financial house and getting it in order. Required minimum distributions. In short, to me, it's the way the government makes sure they get their share. This is forcing you to take money out of plans that were not taxed when you put the money in. Think about 403B account. You know, back when you were teaching, you may have started to put $25 a paycheck into a 403B account, which was a tax deferred savings account that grew tax free until you started to take it out. Think IRAs, things like that, 401ks, maybe for a spouse, stuff like that. Those are things that are required minimum distributions. That's where they have to come from. This isn't your Roth IRA because you've already paid taxes on that. This is not your pension, even though you didn't pay taxes on it at the beginning. The pension plan takes taxes out. You don't have to take required minimum distributions. And it's not CDs and money market accounts. Okay. Required minimum distributions are based on your tax qualified accounts. And the government requires you to take out a portion of that account based on your age. That amount grows every year, and it's based on the account balance from the previous year. And the way the government made their change whenever COVID came in and the stock market just cratered, people said, hey, I don't want to take out my required minimum distributions now because I'm losing money. I want to try to gain that money back. So it was 70.5 prior to 2020. Well, in 2020, they said you now have to take out required minimum distributions at age 72 going forward. if you turn 72 after 2020 and beyond. You have to take your first RMD, or required minimum distribution, by April 1st of the year after you turn 72. So if you turned 72 last year, you should have already taken your first RMD. If you turn 72 this year, you have until April 1st of next year to take out your first required minimum distribution. Then you have to take it out by December 31st every subsequent year. So next year, if you turn 72 this year, you have April 1st of next year to take out this year's required minimum distribution, and then by December 31st to take your remaining required minimum distribution out. Now, this can affect you several different ways. Let me show you how it works first, then I'm going to show you some pitfalls to watch out for. And the reason I say this is because it's not hard, but it's not easy, and you're responsible for doing this. The IRS uses an age table that calculates it on the aggregate of all of your IRA accounts on the previous year's balance. So let's take Nancy, for instance, here, and say Nancy turned 72 this year. She had an IRA that had $125,000 in it. And I'm not talking about your pension. I'm talking about an IRA or a 401k, something like that, 403B. She had a second IRA that had $100,000 in there, had $225,000 total. So she takes the total amount of her IRAs, applies the age factor from the IRS table. In this case, it's 27.4. So she divides it by 27.4. And this is the amount that she has to take out of her plan this year, $8,211 and change. That's not what you owe the IRS. That's what you add to your gross income that impacts the taxes that you pay. It can impact whether certain things are deductible going forward based on your gross income. It can also impact your Medicare premium. So there's a lot of things that these RMDs can impact. And it's important to understand it because not only is it on your accounts like IRAs, if you have a 403B, if you have a 401k that's out there separately, you have to consider those plans separate, and a different calculation is done on them. So again, it can be, if you've done a great job in saving all your life, the government's going to get theirs, unfortunately. This is how they come about doing that. And you've got to really watch out for these pitfalls, because if you forget to take your required minimum distribution, your RMD, there's a 50% tax penalty. This 50% tax penalty is whether you forgot or whether your advisor forgot. So if you've got a plan, and we talk to people all the time that says, my advisor forgot to take out my RMDs and send them to me. Doesn't matter. It's a 50% penalty to you on that, tax penalty on that. But you can determine where those things come from. Like I showed you in the example before, Nancy had 2 IRAs. She could pull all of that $8,200 from one IRA, or it could come from another IRA, or she could take it equally. It doesn't matter. It just has to come from somewhere. You can choose that. So you can pick which fund is performing best, keep that going and growing. You can take it from your loser fund, whichever you prefer. You can automate your RMDs and receive a monthly check if you want to. You can do it annually, doesn't matter. You can do that. Most firms can take the taxes out for you in advance, and then you just figure it out at the end that way. As I mentioned, don't always rely on your fund manager to do your RMDs. Sometimes they forget, they don't do that, and you get hit with a penalty. If you've got certain things in your funds that may be non-liquid, like property, just purely stocks or bonds in there, or you may have some collectibles or gold, tangible assets, you don't have to always take out cash. You can keep that. And there are different treatments if you have a much younger spouse, meaning a spouse that's 10 years or more younger than you. You may be able to not have to take out RMDs and do something a little bit different that way. It's important to get your tax advisor on this. I'm not a tax expert. Just make sure that know that these things are out there, because the government made a change. It's impacted people a little bit differently that way. Okay. Now, some people tell us, and I hope I'm in this position when I retire, that I may not need my RMDs right away, meaning that I saved this for much longer in life. I want to pass these on to my kids, things like that. The government's forcing me to take my RMDs. Some people will take that RMD and they'll use it to provide for their long-term care. They'll use that money, purchase a long-term care policy, something like that, and they'll use that funds to take care of long-term care. You could fund a life insurance policy for an inheritance. Again, some life insurance policies have long-term care benefits in them. You could look for something like that. Some people will say, I want to keep on saving this money. They'll convert to a Roth IRA, which is all after-tax money. They'll pay their taxes and then just save that money in the future, and it's income tax free. So you don't have to worry about that. They can reinvest it back in a non-tax qualified plan, like I told you before, just a regular stock market account. Some will fund a 529 plan for grandkids, for their college, things like that. Some will make a qualified charitable contribution. If you make a qualified charitable contribution, sometimes those RMDs are not taxable to the same degree. So it may be a way to avoid taxes and still be able to help out a qualified charity, things of that nature. So hope that educated you a little bit on RMDs, and we can help you out in that area, and be glad to answer some questions if you've got questions on that. But we've got to really prepare for a lot more years of living. We've seen the impact of inflation just in this short period of time, but as we continue to age, inflation can take hold even more. Life changes take place, medical situations happen, unfortunately, and we've got to prepare for those. So keeping your financial house in order now, heading off some of these things, being prepared from a financial insurance perspective, being prepared your nest egg perspective, but also getting your documents and things like that together so that if something happens, you know that your wishes are going to be carried out, but that your family doesn't have to dig through documents and cost you a lot more money, or them a lot more money, to take care of your final expenses. And we encourage you to do that. So I'm going to open it up for any questions here. I know some of you say you've got to run. Drop those questions in chat. I'll be glad to answer those questions. If you want the ICOD checklist, the in case of death or disaster checklist, email me down there at john.green@amba.info. And I will send that to you today. Get that in the email to you as well. If you have questions about long-term care, cancer, Medicare, how that works, or about that asset protection plan and how that can work for you, simply take your smartphone, hover over that QR code, and with your camera feature, and check those boxes on there, and we'll get someone to talk to you right away. So I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to stop recording. And Joanne, I'm coming to you next.